Welcome to Mental Makeover Radio, your go-to destination for meaningful conversations about mental health. I'm your host and your trusted therapist bestie, Cecilia Mannella. Join us as we explore the complexities and messiness of human experience by addressing your questions and concerns. I'm here to provide a straightforward and practical therapy advice. So grab your favorite beverage, whether it's tea, coffee, or whatever tickles your taste buds, and get ready to embark on a mental makeover. How do you feel about the time that you have in a day and how you're spending it? Do you think you're spending it wisely? Do you think you're spending it in a way that is growing your life? Or do you think that sometimes you're just trying to grab onto some more time? I'm your host, Cecilia Mannella, and this is Mental Makeover Radio. And we are going to dive in today to the difference between time management versus time allocation. Now, I know as a therapist, I am very finicky about the words that we use because words make a difference. Words really make up our reality. It's how we tell our stories, it's how we tell the narrative of who we are to other people, but it's also the way that we've been told stories about who we are from the people in our life, from our family members, from our friends. We are storytellers. And this is how we learn about ourselves, we learn about other people. And in order to tell a story, we got to use words. That's just the way it is. We use language, and language is so powerful. And the words that we use are very powerful. They can be very nuanced. The difference between one word and the next can be really, really small. But the impact it has on our emotional self, our cognitive self, our physical self can make a dramatic difference. And that's why I'm going to do that with talking about time today. Do you find yourself saying that you're always busy all the time? It seems like busy is the new, I don't know, way to measure our value and worth. You say someone to say, you ask them how they are, and they say they're busy. And then we typically respond, yeah, me too. I'm so busy. Everyone's so busy all the time. Doesn't it feel like time is passing by a lot quicker these days compared to like maybe 10 years ago or maybe 20 years ago? I keep on thinking it's just because I'm getting older. But I think that it's not just about that. I think getting older plays a role in it for sure. But I think there's something a little bit more nuanced in the sense that I think there's more demand on our time. There's more demand for our attention. We don't really have a lot of downtime unless we actually claim it. And not being busy is labeled as lazy or slothy or whatever you want to call it. I think young people are now calling it rotting, like I'm rotting in bed or I'm rotting on the couch, is this idea of being not overly efficient or always being productive as wasting time. So I really just want to talk about time in your life, and pay attention to, how different words feel in your body as we kind of get through this episode. I think it's really funny and interesting that we talk about time in the same way that we talk about money. Even the words we use, spending your time management. I need more time, saving time. It's the same things we say about money. How do you spend your money? How do you manage your money? I need more money. Oh, what am I doing to save more money? So there's this really interesting connection between time and money, because I think that time is actually our greatest asset. I do not think it's our bank accounts or the toys that we buy or our Amazon shopping cart or the homes that we live in. Time, not money, is actually your greatest asset. It's the greatest commodity you have. The thing is, we're all allocated the exact same amount every single day. No one gets more, no one gets less. Until the day we die, we get the exact same amount. So it's interesting to see and to notice that we talk about time in the same way we talk about money. Now, I don't know what the roots of that are. I haven't gone into deep dive research on why we talk about time in that way. The only thing I can think of is that we intrinsically know as humans that time is our greatest asset. It goes all the way back, I think, in history of humanity and human beings. And I think capitalism and the way that we spend money, our focus has been on money because it is the commodity that we use to buy food and get shelter and get clothing. It's what we do. We don't trade anymore. What we do is we go to work and we trade our labor, our time for an exchange for the commodity of money. So we are exchanging one for the other. So it kind of makes sense then that we would talk about in very similar ways. So if time is your greatest commodity of investment, how would you rate yourself as a manager of your time portfolio? Do you think you're doing a really good job? Are you diversified enough in how you invest your time? And what's your allocation look like? So I really want you to think about this really differently and open up your mind to thinking about time in a different perspective, a shift where I want you to move away from time management and move towards time allocation. Now I'm going to explain the difference. Because time management's all everyone ever talks about. All you have to do is open up your phone and go into any social media app, whatever you're on, and you could look for a million tips on time management. There's all the tips and tricks and, ways to hack your time and get more time. And maybe you've got, if you're old school, got some like fancy Excel sheets, or you've got apps that'll track what you're doing so you can see where you're actually like spending your time. And all we do is we focus on needing more time or somehow that we need to manage time better. Like we're like terrible time managers, that we just are just horrific managers of this amazing asset that we have. And time management has a little bit of a negative connotation to it, and it can be a little bit rooted in shame. So if you don't think about if you think about the way you manage time and that somehow you're failing at managing time, then it's a little bit shaming. It's kind of the same way we talk about money. When we say like, "Oh, I need to manage my money better." There's like kind of a hidden or a quiet whisper of shame in that somehow you should know how to do this better. You should be a better manager of your time or money. So there is that little bit that's underneath it. And I think it really comes from the definition of the word management. So the definition of the word management is the process of dealing with or controlling things or people. Okay, so it is about controlling things, controlling time. And we see time as something to deal with, as in like it takes something to control it. And dealing and controlling, it kind of feels like it's a big job, let's say. Okay. So like when we think about managers managing things, it feels like a really big job. And it is about control. And so it's this idea that you're either on it all the time and you're like controlling the things all the time and managing things really well, or when you take a break from it, it's somehow it all goes to shit and you're not managing really well. Okay. So on the other side of how you can talk about time is we can talk about time allocation. Now, it may sound like a really weird term or a way of saying it, but just hang in there for a second and follow me through this. What is actually the word allocation? So the definition of the word allocation is to set apart a particular purpose, assign something, or to allot something. So even in just that definition, okay, so the definition of management is a process of dealing with or controlling things. And allocation is to set apart for a particular purpose or assigning something. It feels different to say those two things. So the focus of allocation isn't about control. It's being intentional and how you are setting something aside. So setting time aside for a particular purpose or a goal or a priority in your life. It's really purposeful, it's intentional in nature by using the word allocation. And it really speaks to confidence, power of choice, and autonomy, right? We're not trying to hold on to something. We're being really purposeful of where things are getting allotted to or how we're assigning things. And it feels a bit softer to me, a bit more, I don't know, like I'm a little bit more in the driver's seat of the situation. So if we speak about time the same way we talk about allocation of money or allocation of funds, you are then the one allocating where the time goes. So that automatically puts you in the position of power, but not power as in controlling other people. Power in something that you are the only one that can make the decision of how your time in your life is being allocated. So I want you to think about this right now in this moment, and maybe say it out loud if you're listening in your car, if you're on a walk or whatever you're doing, is I want you to notice how different it feels to you to say time management and time allocation. It feels different. In my body, when I say time management, it feels a little bit tighter in my chest, and that somehow I'm reacting to something. Like I'm responding to something, to a demand or to some energy coming my way. When I say time allocation, there's something about it that feels a little bit freer, and that I'm in control of how I use something or using my time. It's a little bit more I'm in control in a way of how I'm allocating my attention, my focus, my needs, my desires, my wants. I'm in charge of what's actually happening. And that if I take my eye away from it, nothing's going to go to shit. I don't have to watch it because I've already allocated it. It's just doing what it's going to do. So, what does that feel like for you? How is it different to say time management versus time allocation? And what can this shift do for you? How would you judge your time differently in this way? So if you're looking at time management versus time allocation, the one thing that feel like I'm talking all the time in sessions is the things that can create some distractions in our life, because all I hear is I don't have time. I don't have a lot of time. And my response is typically, okay, so tell me about the biggest thing that takes your free time, so non-work time, away. Like, how's that distracted? How's that being distracted? How is that being pulled to do something? And it usually has to do with our phones. We are very distracted by our phones. Now, whether you're playing games on them, whether you're talking to people, whether you're on social media, whatever you're doing on your phone is your business. But our phones, they're the greatest, this beautiful little device that we carry in our pockets. It is the greatest source of distraction of our time. So I want to know, if you were thinking about time management versus time allocation, how would you see your phone differently? Because time management to me speaks to managing how much time I'm on my phone. So there's not a really preconceived idea of how much it should be or shouldn't be, but I should manage it somehow. Whereas time allocation, it has more of that feel of like I decide how much time I am going to give to my phone, and that's it. I don't have to manage it because I've allocated it. So it's the same thing you can do with like time with your family, time with friends, times with play. Like, how often are you allocating time in your life to play, to have fun, to be creative, to enjoy life? You know, if we're constantly just trying to manage things, there's really not a lot of time to think about these things or focus on play and fun. But if you're sitting back and you're allocating time and you're saying, I'm going to allocate an hour a week to play, I mean, then that's a commitment you keep to yourself when you allocate something, because it's already set. So you're not trying to control things. You're not trying to control people or control outcomes because you've allocated. You've decided that something is a priority to you, and you've given the time allotted for that thing that is a priority to you. So, time with family, if that's important to you, allocate time to it. If, time going to school, let's say, or studying or reading or painting or working on a car or going out for walks with your dog, whatever it is, it's an allocation of time. So what happens is that the resistance to it doesn't exist as much anymore. We resist things that are healthy for us in a way. So it's like, oh, I really should, which again, go back to the episode where I talked about shoulds and coulds and how that is the key to breaking perfection, because the word should is a really, really good indicator that an expectation is there, and expectation that is really rooted in perfection, which is very problematic. So you need to look at that whenever that should shows up, like I should be doing this, I should be doing, I should be exercising more. I should be going out with my friends more. I should be investing more money. I should be kinder. I should do yoga. I should, and all the things that come with that. So the word should is usually a key that is rooted in shame and perfection. So if you want to listen to that episode, it's episode 9 that will dive into shoulds and coulds. So when you think about time in your life, I want you to move out of the should and I want you to think about the could. What could you be allocating your time to? Not what you should be doing. What could you? If you sat back with a piece of paper, not even a journal, just a piece of paper, and thought about what you could be allocating your time to. Now, we all have to allocate time to work unless we're retired. And so put that down, your allocation to time for work, your allocation to time to commuting if you have to commute, your allocation of time that you want to give to things that give you life, that bring you joy is really, really important because that puts you back into the driver's seat because time is our greatest commodity that we have. It really is the only asset that we truly, truly own is time. And if we are so busy trying to find more of it because we're not allocating it in a way that makes our life more joyful or more fulfilling, then what we're just looking for is just more of something that we can't get. It's no different than, again, the link between time and money is very interesting because you can focus on just making more money without paying attention to what you're doing with the money you already have. So if you're not paying attention to what you're doing with the money you have and you're just focused on more and more and more, then there's something broken in that system. And it's the same thing with time. If we're so focused on like, oh, I'm just so busy, I just want more time, I want more time. How do I get more time? Not looking at how you're actually allocating the time you actually have, then you're missing that equation. So allocation puts you back into really rethinking about your values. What are your primary values? What is important to you at this time in your life right now, not forever, not, 6 months from now, but just for right now because life is constantly changing. It's evolving, the demands are different, maybe kids are getting older or aging parents or changes at work or changes like in finances or living situations or relationship status, things are constantly changing. So things are not the same. They don't stay stagnant. And they shouldn't actually because stagnation and or something that doesn't change or doesn't grow actually dies. It's a rule of nature. And we, at the end of the day, are organic beings that live in nature. So we have to constantly be changing. So we want to look at time allocation. And this is going to be a little bit of a hard one because it's really going to challenge you to look at your life from a different place. So I want you to possibly do a bit of an audit, which is for the first week, just pay attention to what you're doing with time. Just pay attention to it. Don't change anything, just pay attention to it. How much time have you been giving to certain things in your life? And is that what you really want to give? Is that the proper allocation? And if it's not, then you can do something to change it. You do not have to continue in this pattern because at the end of the day, like we said at the beginning, the only thing you're really in charge of is your time. It's the only asset we have that we truly own and have the power to do something about. We can decide how we allocate our time and how much time we're allocating to certain things with no judgment on the thing that you're allocating time to. So if watching TV for 3 hours a day brings you joy, then allocate that time. Don't should all over yourself about managing it differently when that's what you really want to do. So be honest with yourself. Do I think that 3 hours of TV every single day is really good for your mental health? Probably not. You're better off allocating time going outside, being in nature, being in relationships with people. So just being out in the world, having connections with people, having fun, laughing. I do believe that to be true. But if at this point in your life right now, you want to allocate 3 hours a day to watch TV, then that's okay. But then own that piece of it. Do not say that you're so busy. Do not say that you just need to manage your time better. Do not should all over yourself. Do not create these limitations, and just own it that you're allocating this time, and that's okay. Because in giving yourself permission of it, you stop shaming yourself, because shame is the root of so many problems and so much just kind of like shitting on ourselves. Shame is like not your friend. We do not want to grow shame. The goal is always to take shame out of the closet, bring it into the light, and decrease it as much as possible, because nothing good comes from shame. The only thing that comes from shame is our need to numb. We want to numb with anything we possibly can. So we're not here to grow shame. Allocate the time, because you are the only one in charge of the time that you have in your life. Now, I really think that just changing the word management to allocation is going to create a massive shift in your life. You are going to see time very, very differently. And in that difference, you're going to find other shifts that potentially happen, and that you actually may gain time that you thought you never had, because you've realized that in your attempt to manage, you've been avoiding. And let me tell you, we can all spend a lot of time avoiding. We can find really great ways to avoid. I mean, we are like master avoiders. So when you sit in a place of looking honestly from a place of love for yourself and looking at how you allocate time, and you come to realize that maybe you've been giving your phone too much time and it doesn't deserve that time from you, and that you would rather allocate that hour that you're going to take back from the phone and you're going to allocate to something different. That feels really empowering. That actually builds confidence. That makes you feel like you're in control of what's happening in your life. And that purpose raises our confidence, but it also makes us feel good. There's more opportunity for joy. There's more opportunity for a little bit of happiness. So all of these things compound over each other. Some people really want to minimize the impact of reclaiming an hour, let's say a day. But there's a lot you can do in an hour in a day if you allocate that to something that you're passionate about, something that is joyful, something that makes you laugh, something that brings you peace, something that like brings down your stress level. Because the phone is not bringing down your stress level as much as it's a distraction from maybe like what's happening in your life that's stressful, something that is really heavy or maybe depressing or maybe causing some anxious feelings or anxious thoughts. We think that the phone is a really great distraction from that, but in truth, it just puts it on pause. That's all it does. So you can go into feeling really, really anxious, grab your phone, and it's a bit of distraction, and the feelings kind of reduce. What it only does is it pauses it for a moment. And the second you put your phone down, those emotions reemerge. And so we grab the phone again and again and again and again. And the next thing you know, if you actually looked at your phone, because it does tell you how much time you've been spending on it, and it tells you which apps you've been spending on. And I can guarantee you it's at least a few hours a day, which if you are a little bit older, like over 40, there was a time in your life that you did not have a cell phone. Because I remember that time not having cell phones. And there was something about that that gave us a lot more time. And it didn't give us time. It's just we had less time to have so much distraction so readily available in our pocket. And we allocated our time differently. We decided to put our time in other areas or focus on things that are a bit more important in our lives. We all get the same amount of time in a day. What you do with that time is about how you allocate it. I really encourage you to make this shift, this one word shift. If you listen to episode 9 about perfection and should and coulds, you'll see the power of one word shift. Now, we don't have to create a super fancy change to make a really radical shift in your life. It can't just be one word. So I want you to change the word management to allocation. And I want to hear how that goes for you. So I want you to comment on the podcast, shoot me off an email. Let me know what the shift actually does for you. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. And if you think anyone can benefit from hearing this episode, Everyone's struggling with time, and I think this is a really beneficial conversation to be having. And it can create more space for time in your life by making this one word shift. If you like today's episode, I love it if you could follow and rate the show. Thanks for being a part of the Mental Makeover community, and I hope you have an amazing week. Until next time, be bold, be brave, be well.